This is another look and listen episode. So before you listen to the episode itself, go to the link in the show notes that goes to the Substack, and there you will find a series of photos that all link to the stories in this episode. So to get the most enjoyment from it, go there, look at the pictures, listen and enjoy. Thank you. Hello and welcome once again to What's Out There, the paranormal podcast from Out There Paranormal. And telling tales for you in this episode, we have myself, Nigel.
And myself, Juliette.
So, Jules, where are we off to this time?
Well, we're going back to Norfolk.
Back to Norfolk, local turf.
Home turf, yes. Now, in fact, there are no less than five weird tales associated with this particular place. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sinister Minster, not to be confused with Mr. Pete Laws, our dear friend, the Sinister Minister.
I think you're going to get a little bit excited there.
I know.
Mr. Laws.
I know.
I'm not going to say anything about you getting confused with Mr. Laws because that would give the game away.
Well, it would, wouldn't it? Just a little bit. Yeah, it'd be a bit of a shock as well.
Be very careful what I say here.
Yeah, I think so.
In this case, let's just go on
Moving
with the
along.
story. Yes, indeed.
Okay, so, Nige, where is this unusual place?
Well, it's a bracing trip to the rundown and somewhat fading seaside resort of Great Yarmouth. But there are no kiss me quick hats or seaside rock.
Oh,
I know.
I'm disappointed
I'm
now.
terribly sorry.
I thought you'd turn up with a kiss me quick hat and a nice piece of rock.
No, sadly
Nothing.
not. Because we're heading to a place where there's some mysteries to be uncovered.
Okay, that might make up for the lack of rock.
Yeah, you see,
and
it's
hat.
not so bad, is it? Not so bad.
Okay.
Welcome to the Church of St. Nicholas, otherwise known as the Great Yarmouth Minster. Now, this place is a bit of a checkered history. Its foundation stone was laid in 1101 by the first Bishop of Norwich, Herbert de Losinga, the same bloke who was responsible for the building of Norwich Cathedral. And he actually built this minster as a penance for an act of simony.
My word. Now, the church was founded in association with a Benedictine priory, the remains of which are still in use today as the Priory Centre. It was a simple building to start with, but as Great Yarmouth's wealth grew, so did the minster, and by 1400 it was a large and impressive structure complete with a 186-foot spire. That's a big un.
That is a big one, yeah. Not there now, though.
No, I know.
Gone.
Yeah.
I know. In 1560, there was huge damage and destruction as part of Henry VIII's Church Reformation period, where the ornamental brasses were ripped up and cast into weights, and the gravestones were cut into grindstones.
Wicked.
And they turfed out all the monks in the priory at the same time as well.
So during the Commonwealth, the minster was divided into three and used by various factions. And by the late 18th century, it was empty and falling into disrepair. Now, the restoration started in 1804, and the minster was put back into use. However, it took until 1901 to fully restore the building.
But sadly, in 1942, the minster fell victim to a Luftwaffe raid and was completely gutted. The sorry remains stood there as a hollow shell with just walls, a tower and arches until 1956, when a full neo-Gothic restoration began. The work took 4 years to complete, and as a testament to the resilience of this historic place, in 1960 the Minster reopened and welcomed back its congregation, a symbol of hope and perseverance.
Now, as mentioned at the start, there are more than a few strange tales associated with the Minster, more so with its graveyard. And it's there, amongst the gravestones, that we begin our first tale. As you approach the Minster along the church plain, your eye is drawn to a series of blue plaques affixed to the railings. Taking the time to read them, you notice the one that mentions a certain Thomas Vaughan, who in 1827 just happened to be hard at work in the Minster graveyard. But beware! You would only witness his work if you just happened to be passing very late at night, because Thomas Vaughan didn't work during the day. Oh, he preferred the cover of darkness to help hide his handiwork. A chilling tale that still haunts the Minster to this day. You see, Thomas was a resurrectionist, and robbing graves was his trade.
Now, robbing graves might sound like thieves were stealing items from corpses, but it wasn't trinkets they were after. It was fresh cadavers.
Lovely.
I know, it's fantastic, isn't it?
Is it cadavers or cadavers?
I don't know.
I thought it was cadavers.
Cadavers? Cadavers. Either one of those two.
You say tomato and I say tomato. Or the other way round.
Indeed.
Potato, potato.
I'll just say corpses instead. It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Where were we?
Okay.
Corpses. You see, it was fresh corpses they were after. They were digging the dead up from their graves and selling the bodies to medical schools for dissection.
Lovely.
Indeed.
Now, the only legal supply of human corpses at the time was that of the bodies of criminals executed by the judicial process. It was only the bodies of hanged criminals that were allowed to be used by surgeons and anatomists for dissection and research if the judge at their trial so directed. This was considered a particularly heavy sentence for, after the dissection, the unwanted remains would not be given a decent burial.
No, in fact, I mean, some of them, they kept bits, they articulate the skeletons, so you had a sort of skeleton, they just threw the bits into a mass grave.
Horrible, isn't it?
There was a digging when they were doing St Bartholomew's Hospital. They were doing a extension to the hospital, and they dug there and actually found a pit that had some of these bodies in it.
It's
and they were
awful. They're just thrown in.
It's just bits of bone everywhere.
Bits of leg, bits of arm.
Just chucked into it. That's it.
Whatever's left that nobody wanted.
Horrendous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, body snatchers or resurrectionists were hired by surgeons to steal bodies from graveyards across the country, with the freshest corpses and the bodies of children fetching the highest prices. Surgeons and anatomists paid between 42 shillings and £14 for a dead body, the equivalent of £150 to £1,000 in today's money.
That's still cheap, though.
It's still cheap, but...
Isn't it? Even in today's money, though, that's still cheap for a human body.
But then you get to the next bit, because it's a huge amount of money for the time, and grave robbers could dig up several bodies in the night.
Yeah, but you just said in today's money it's £1,000, right?
Yeah.
But that's still cheap.
That is still cheap.
Yeah.
But if you're digging up 10 bodies a night, that's £10,000.
Well, I know, but £1,000 for one body, one person. I'm in the wrong job.
I don't think you can get it these days.
Even for a human, though, I still think that's cheap.
That is quite cheap. And the thing you got to bear in mind with this as well is that none of these bodies are treated. There's no embalming or anything like that.
God, can you imagine the smell?
Yeah, I was going to say. So you want the freshest corpses because you don't want to be digging up something that's been buried for...
Do you know what? How could they have hidden that, though? Because the smell would have given it away.
They did.
Wow.
In some cases where they actually found bodies when they were being moved after they'd been dug up and moved to a location.
And some of them burst as well.
Yeah, it was the smell that attracted them.
Didn't Henry VIII's body burst?
I think it did, wasn't it?
Pus or something.
Yeah, or was it him? Or was it? I know William the Conqueror did. I think.
Yeah, I think Henry VIII. They dropped him or something, and he exploded because he was so distended from infection.
That's nice, isn't it?
Ugh.
Really disgusting.
But I'm sure this obviously happened with some of these corpses.
Yeah,
as
I mean,
well,
they used to have
didn't
what they called dissecting season,
Yes.
which ran from October to May.
Oh,
Because
my
obviously you want to
word.
be digging up bodies when it's colder because they're a little bit
Yeah.
fresher. You won't want to be digging them up in the summer because
And they wouldn't rot so quickly.
no, a corpse is going to be fairly stinky after a short period of time if you dug one up in July
can
or
you
August.
imagine? July, August.
I mean, these guys, I mean, apparently they were prone to drinking a lot as well because just to sort of
just get over the stink and not think about it.
I mean, it's a fascinating one. It's not one whether you want to cover it in the Paranormal podcast or not, but it's one that I wanted to sort of talk about for a while.
But the human body is heavy. They wouldn't have been able to do it on their own, just one person.
No, there were teams.
Because there would have to be several of them to get a human corpse.
Well, I think Thomas Vaughan, I think he had a crew of 5 that he was working with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got the cages as well that they used to put over the...
but if they put a mort safe over the top, that's the one you were... because there's that classic picture where they've got the mort safe, and now it's put over the grave to stop zombies and vampires from rising. It wasn't. It was put over the graves to stop the resurrectionists from nicking the body. And they actually did put them off because they were quite hard to move those things and get them out of the way. So, mort safe, They had all sorts of mad inventions to stop them doing as well. They had things called cemetery guns that they rigged up as well. They would actually fire across the cemetery and hit them if they were trying to dig them up. And this was rife. I mean, there was so many people digging up bodies.
Oh, that's gross.
Yeah. Absolutely huge amount, because there were so many of these sort of surgeon schools that were desperate for the bodies.
The body snatchers.
Indeedy. Yeah. So, it's fascinating stuff.
So strange as it may seem, the digging up of corpses was not a major crime. Under the law at that time, buried bodies were not seen as property, and as such, could not be classed as stolen goods. So the crime was nearly almost always tried as a misdemeanour, and the penalties of court were a fine or a short prison sentence. So the grave robbers were careful to steal nothing but the naked bodies. So they stripped the corpses at the graveside, and they threw the clothes and the shrouds back into the grave.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
Oh, it's wicked.
I mean, your body's not worth anything at all.
Oh, it's just
and in fact, Vaughan was caught, and the only sentence he got was 6 months in prison. And the actual surgeons that he was working for raised money to make sure that his wife was looked after while he was in prison. Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't buy him out, to be honest.
Yeah,
just get him out to steal more bodies.
Yeah.
So they actually left him in there for the full 6 months.
He's done the 6 months, and then came out and started again.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Thomas Vaughan, also known as Thomas Goslin, was born in 1790 or 91 in Limerick, Ireland. But he came to London, where he became well known as a petty criminal operating in the south of the capital. His work as a stonemason's labourer brought his attention to the money to be earned from robbing graves, and he began to ply his grisly trade across the country. Over the course of 13 years, Vaughan supplied fresh corpses to some of the most eminent surgeons in the country, including Sir Astley Cooper, who was a renowned surgeon to Queen Victoria, and he just happened to be the son of the Vicar of Great Yarmouth Minster. He had no qualms whatsoever about using stolen corpses to further his work, even boasting there is no person, whatever his position in life might be, whose body after death I could not obtain. The law only enhances the price and does not prevent exhumation.
Wow.
Yeah, lovely, isn't it, eh?
Now, Vaughan was employed by Astley Cooper to supply fresh cadavers for dissection, and with his connections to the town, perhaps a suggestion was made that Great Yarmouth might be a good source for bodies. So in 1827, Vaughan arrives in Great Yarmouth, and he rents a property on Row 6 because of its proximity to the Minster graveyard, a handy place to view what was going on over there, and with an easy reach to drag the stolen corpses. So over the course of 19 days, he and his gang steal 10 bodies, including the body of an infant, a small child, a young woman, and a 67-year-old man. Now the corpses are taken to the Row 6 house, where they were packed in sawdust in crates labelled glass, handle with care. and they were taken by wagon to London, where they were exhibited in an upstairs room of an inn outside the gates of St Bartholomew's Hospital. Now, surgeons would call in and select the body of their choice, paying whatever fee was agreed for the corpse. The Norfolk Chronicle, a local newspaper, reported at the time that the grave robbing caused great excitement in the town, while the churchyard at St Nicholas was seen to resemble a ploughed field.
Yeah, they're actually saying that there were even bits of corpses in the graveyard as well. Well, they dug up bodies and they realised they weren't any good. They were too far gone or they were rotten, so they just left them.
But I mean, even packing them in sawdust, that's not going to that'll get rid of all the blood and all the
fluids,
goo,
yeah,
the
they're
fluids,
sort of sick. But
it won't get rid of the smell.
No.
Ew.
Imagine they've gone in the car all the way from Norfolk to London.
Ew.
I mean, that's going to take a couple of days.
Ew.
They're going to hum by the time they get there.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, horrendous, isn't it?
Travelling. Because in those days, it would have taken, several days, wouldn't it?
I would have thought so, yeah. At least 2, if not more.
Gosh.
Possibly 3 or 4.
Oh, God, the smell.
Stinky by the time you get there. Well, another interesting fact, Row 6 in Yarmouth is now called Body Snatchers Row.
Yes, it is.
It is, yeah.
I know Body Snatchers Row,
yeah. So you can sort of walk down it. But it obviously wasn't in those days, but that's where it got its name from. So for those of you who don't know Yarmouth very well, the rows are actually the sort of alleyways that run between
little alleys
of the houses.
Narrow little places.
They could only build Yarmouth inside the town wall, so it's limited the size. So they built the houses really close together. So you've got all these rows sort of running backwards and forwards. Yeah, so there's actually loads of them in Yarmouth. But,
not far from the ports.
No.
Actually, why didn't they use a boat?
And that's a good point.
Because
they've got to get it, I suppose, from the Minster all the way down to Yarmouth Docks. You're going to have to go through the town, aren't you?
Well, at night there wouldn't have been anyone around. So why didn't they do that? And then why didn't they get the body on a boat and go that way?
I don't know, because then you'd have to go out, you'd have to wait for the tide, you'd have to come out of Yarmouth, you'd have to go round the coast, then you'd have to go up the Thames, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but wouldn't it have been safer than to travel through the town?
I don't know, but would it have been quicker?
I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
Just a thought.
Yeah, because they certainly
didn't.
They didn't have trains at the time, so
unless the place was policed. Because I suppose the port was quite busy back in the day, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I mean, you had a very large operating fishing fleet in Yarmouth.
Yeah, not like today.
Yeah, but it was huge. I mean, the herring trade in Yarmouth was absolutely massive still at that time.
Maybe that's why, because it was heavily policed. And so
there'd be too many people about. They'd notice them sort of wandering about with a sack over your shoulder. What's in the bag, mate? Oh, just a body. I just dug it up from the church. Oh, God. Horrible, isn't it? Well, anyway, Thomas Vaughan's body-snatching career came to an abrupt end in 1830 when he and his 5 accomplices were arrested at a property in Stoke Damerel near Exeter. I mean, that's a distance away as well. He's gone down to Devon
I was just thinking that.
From Norfolk to Devon.
Good Lord.
They'd been observed stealing bodies from the local graveyard.
What, in Exeter?
Yeah, they were down there doing the same thing, yeah. Vaughan had always been careful, but on this occasion he had broken the golden rule of grave robbing. Never take anything other than the cadaver from the grave. Items of clothing belonging to some of the corpses were found. This was theft, pure and simple.
Why would he nick what was he going to do with the clothing?
This,
wear it?
Actually,
oh no!
When they arrested him, apparently his wife was wearing
for God's
the dress
sake.
And the white stockings off one of the corpses.
That's hideous.
That's just horrendous, isn't it?
Did she wash them first?
I've no idea. You would hope so.
She just put them straight on.
No.
Oh,
horrendous, isn't it? Well, anyway, this is theft, pure and simple, and the punishment meted out at the trial was transportation for a period of 7 years to Van Diemen's Land in Australia. So Vaughan ended up being transported to Australia along with his wife.
I was going to say,
and his accomplices.
Yeah, because she was wearing the clothes.
She had the clothes on. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So all that time, 13 years, he got away with it, and then on one occasion he decided to get his wife a new dress and some stockings.
That's what happens when you get greedy.
Off a corpse.
You know?
All that dress is like, do you think it'll fit me?
Oh, don't.
It's horrendous, isn't it?
Oh my God.
Not bear thinking about, does it?
It's just so bad.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh God.
But it is fascinating. I mean, they reckon he stole about 20 bodies out of the Minster graveyard.
That's hideous.
Yeah, all for cutting up to learn.
I wonder if he had one of those sort of herb masks like they wore in the bubonic plague.
Oh, like the plague doctor mask,
to stop the smell.
I don't know, but imagine they would have been masked up.
Oof.
I mean, there's a really good... I'll try and put some links in the notes, but there's a good diary from, I think it's from the Burqa gang in London, where the bloke's making notes about when they were doing the bodies and how much they were selling them for. And they never operate under a full moon because obviously they want the complete darkness.
Yeah.
But he was saying there, he mentions about how some of the crew were drunk and other ones were unable to lift the body because they were so drunk. And it's really interesting the way they sort of do it as well. They sort of dig, they don't dig the whole grave out. They dig down at the head. So dig half the grave. They smash the coffin in.
That's it.
Then they get a rope around it and pull it out.
By the head. Oh,
yeah.
God.
So
yeah, but surely if the corpse is rotting and the rope is a little bit too tight around the head, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Whoop.
Yeah, right?
Do you want to know what's even worse?
What?
This is great. I love this gruesome subject. The surgeons really weren't too worried about their mouths, so they would pull all the teeth out of the corpses and sell them separate to make false teeth.
I know.
It's horrendous, isn't it? That's
so
horrendous.
Well, they still, to this day, they grind down bits of bone from dead bodies, don't they? And they use it in fillings for people's teeth and things like that, in dentistry. They still do that to this day.
That's horrendous.
Because I'm not mentioning anyone, but a member of my family has had it. Had it done.
Got bone teeth. That's
and I said,
horrendous.
You've got a dead person in your mouth. But they do. They do. They still, to this day, use it.
Well, no, I mean, straight off on a tangent like you do, they've been doing archaeological digs at the battlefield at Waterloo and they've hardly ever find any skeletons. So I think what's happened is, over the years, the Belgians have dug up the skeletons and ground them up to make bone meal for fertiliser.
My God. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Why? Wouldn't it just be easier just when the local, I don't know, cows and pigs pass away or something, just to grind them up?
Yeah.
Rather than dig up human bodies and do that.
Scary stuff, isn't it?
Why is that?
I don't know.
God.
But there we go. So Thomas Vaughan. The first of our tales. Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Not that paranormal, but creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Cemeteries are supposed to be the end of the line in your life's journey, the final stop, and by the time your body is laid to rest, your spirit is long gone. Walking amongst the gravestones is a peaceful activity with all the bodies safely laid to rest. But what if something was to disturb their peaceful slumber? Something like having your last resting place desecrated, your body torn from its resting place. Perhaps this disturbance could be enough to bring your spirit back from the other world, seeking some kind of vengeance.
We told the tale of Thomas Vaughan and his grave-robbing escapades. Perhaps his gruesome work stealing corpses might be the reason for the ghosts seen flitting amongst the gravestones in 1872. Now, in July of that year, rumours began to circulate that a ghost had been seen flitting around the graves and tombstones in the Minster churchyard. The gossip became so persistent that within days a huge crowd, perhaps as large as 1,000 people, had gathered to satisfy their curiosity, undertaking a mass graveyard vigil at night.
Of course, it wasn't too long before the word reached the local press, and on July the 15th, an article in the Eastern Daily Press newspaper stated, "A few days ago, a rumour got about that a ghost was seen in St Nicholas churchyard, and as the report spread, it grew in proportion, like the tale of the 3 black crows, until it came to be looked upon as an undoubted fact that a ghost was seen to be walking in the churchyard in the witching hours of night."
One man stated positively that he saw the spirit and described it as being a monster and as having passed itself into 4 different shapes while he was looking at it. Another tale is that the ghost is the spirit of a deceased townsman who once lived near the church. A third report was to the effect that the ghost was an escaped lunatic, and a fourth that the tale originated in the fact that someone, having seen the gravedigger at work, in his shirt sleeves late at night or very early in the morning.
The article dismissed the crowds as fools, adding that it hoped the onlookers had come away wiser people than they went.
So the stories died down and peace returned to the Minster graveyard. That was until October 1922, when 3 ghosts in armour riding white horses were seen in St Nicholas churchyard, and it was reported that hundreds of excited children and adults were drawn to Church Plain and Northgate Street, where they peered for many hours through the railings in the hope of seeing the spirits in the graveyard. Every now and again, a person shouted that they'd seen a ghost flitting amongst the gravestones.
One brave church official offered his services as a leader to search the churchyard, but no one dared to take him up on it. For many nights, crowds gathered, especially children, who were convinced that a ghost was about. The hysteria grew so much that eventually the police decided to patrol the graveyard looking for ghosts, but none were ever found. There was even a rumour doing the rounds that 8 people on Howard Street had all died from shock related to them seeing the ghosts in the graveyard. Weird.
Just a bit.
Yeah, someone's like, is it the fact that someone's seen something and everybody says, we've seen something?
It's mass hysteria, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Classic case, isn't
Definitely,
it?
yeah.
Chinese whispers, mass hysteria.
Yeah.
There they all are. They all want to see something. Then they convince themselves they've seen something. Pareidolia, there it is.
Yeah. Not long before they shout, oh my God, it's over there.
Yeah.
Woo, woo.
That's it. That's what it is.
But that's fascinating because they're sort of 2 similar stories, but the same effect. You know, someone sees something, word gets around, everybody bundles up and has a look. Yeah,
it happens.
There we go. So, on to the next tale. And here we go.
One of the strangest stories attached to the Minster relates to the old Priory School that used to be located in what is now the Priory Centre next door to the Minster. In the early 1900s, the school received a special gift which had been found in an elaborate tomb in Egypt. The mummified remains of an Egyptian princess in an elaborate casket. The mummy was donated by a patron of the school who wanted to further the pupils' education about all things Egyptian. There always has been a long fascination with all things Egyptian. In particular, people were fascinated by mummies, whether ground up into a dust to use as medicine or on display at macabre unwrapping parties. The long dead bodies were said to possess otherworldly powers. The princess lay there quite happily in her casket, or so they thought, but unfortunately soon after the gift arrived, a bad smell began to waft through the building, and after a search for the stench, it was discovered to be emanating from the casket.
You see, there had already been warnings issued about mummies. In the 18th century, antiquarian John Woodward had written, I myself saw here a mummy brought formerly out of Egypt that, after it had been for some time in our more humid air, began to corrupt and grow mouldy, emitting a fetid and cadaverous scent, and in conclusion, putrefied and fell to pieces. Delightful, isn't it? We're back to bodies again, aren't we?
Horrible.
Taken from her original hot and dry resting place, the princess mummy struggled in the damp climate of Great Yarmouth. Upon opening the casket, it was discovered that the princess was rotting away and producing the foul odour that had been wafting through the school. A decision was taken to remove the mummy from its casket and bury it in the next door churchyard.
I think anybody would struggle in Great Yarmouth, let alone a mummy.
Indeed, in the humid air.
Indeed. So someone found out that there was apparently some special protocol attached to the burial of mummies, and in order to adhere to this, mummy burial protocol. Yes, there is a thing.
There is a thing, yeah.
The casket was taken to the graveyard at midnight, and the rotten contents were dropped into a hole and hastily covered up. That'll fix it.
That will indeed.
The casket was resealed and returned to the school.
Now, not long after the midnight mummy burial, the vicarage and St Nicholas Church began to be disturbed in the night by strange knocking sounds on the doors. In fact, people walking through the graveyard at night began to hear the eerie sounds too. Investigations were carried out to try and discover the source of the sounds, but no cause was found.
It wasn't long before rumours began to circulate that a mummy's curse had befallen the minster and its priory, and when the foul smell that had plagued the school returned and was again traced to the casket, claims were made it was further proof of the curse.
The decision was made to open the casket again, and it was found that in the haste to bury the princess in the dark, one of her arms had been left behind.
Oh, so the remains of the Egyptian mummy were unearthed. The missing arm was placed carefully beside it and the soil put back.
And, believe it or not, the strange knocking sounds immediately stopped.
There you go.
There we are.
Never steal a woman's arm.
Exactly.
Otherwise you're in trouble.
You can't leave it behind.
No.
You've got to have all the bits there.
That's it.
Yeah. I don't know. But how did you manage to do the knocking sound if their arm was in the casket?
Well, that's a very good point.
Oh,
Maybe it was the arm hopping along, trying to get back to the body.
Yeah. Knocking on the door saying,
Let me in.
Let me in.
That's it.
I want to go over there.
Yeah.
With the other stinky bits that you tipped in the hole.
Ooh.
Honestly, there's a lot of fetid corpses in this, isn't there?
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
We've got a sad one coming up now.
We have, unfortunately, yeah, because there's all this joviality in this one. This last story but one actually, because there's a little tiny bit at the end of this, but this is really rather sad, so yeah, I suppose you better tell it.
Okay.
So, like we're saying, the final story is possibly the saddest one. We started our Minster Tales by mentioning a blue plaque, and our final tale also relates to another blue plaque. This one is not on the railings at the front of the Minster, it's on a gate that leads into the old church graveyard, and on it is written,
In this churchyard are buried 7 women who were executed for alleged witchcraft in 1584 and 1645. The first 2 women, from 1584, are somewhat overshadowed by the other 5 from 1645, but here is the tale that leads up to their demise.
In March 1582, Elizabeth Butcher and Celia Atkins were brought before the council at the town sessions accused of witchcraft. They were found guilty and the sentence was passed that both women to be displayed in the town's pillory every market day until they confessed their involvement. Then they would be freed. It appears that Celia confessed, but Elizabeth was sentenced to imprisonment only to be released upon her confession.
The following year, Elizabeth was again brought before the town sessions, but again denied any attachment to the allegations. Once again, she was placed in the custody of the town's jailer, and at the discretion of the town's bailiffs, was placed in the pillory until she confessed.
In April 1584, Elizabeth Butcher was brought before the court with another woman, Joan Lingwood. This time, the court found both women guilty and are to be taken to a site of execution at the north of the town and hanged by the neck until they were dead. Parish records show that they were buried in St Nicholas Churchyard on the 18th of April 1584.
Poor women didn't stand a
It's a
chance,
sad
did
one.
they?
It's just quite an early one as well for witchcraft trials of 1584.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. There's sort of more sort of looking at the next series of stories you're talking about, the ones you sort of imagine. But I mean, witchcraft trials go back a long way. But yeah.
Oh, Matthew Hopkins.
Yes, well, like you said, Obviously, we know what's coming up next. When you look at the dates,
Yes,
you're going to know.
We do.
Okay, because if we fast forward to the Great Yarmouth of 1645, where fear of witchcraft was very, very real indeed, it seems that a sort of hysteria had raged across East Anglia that year with the so-called Witchfinder General Matthew Hopkins and his assistant John Stern stalking the land. The hysteria reached Great Yarmouth, and on the 15th of August the town assembly invited Hopkins, then at Bury St Edmunds, to visit Great Yarmouth in order to search out any witches present. It is agreed that a gentleman, Mr. Hopkins, employed in the country for discovering and finding out of witches, shall be sent for hither to come to town to make search for such wicked persons, if any be here, and shall have his fee and such allowance for his pains and labour in that kind as he hath in other places in the country.
In advance of Hopkins' arrival in early September, several potential witches had been rounded up, ready to be interrogated by Hopkins and Stern. Included in this number were Alice Kiswell, Elizabeth Bradwell, Elizabeth Dudgeon, Bridget Howard, and Margaret Blackbourne. And these 5 names make up the 7 women accused of witchcraft that were executed and buried in the graveyard.
Now, Matthew Hopkins' reputation goes before him. His 14-month reign of terror during the English Civil War, around 1644 to 1646, resulted in the execution of approximately 300 people and the ruining of many others.
Now, we hope to cover his awful reign of terror across East Anglia in another episode, but needless to say, his methods of interrogation resulted in confessions, and on the 10th of September 1645, the witch trials took place in the town. 2 men and 9 women were put on trial.
The trials pronounced 6 of the accused women as guilty, and they were sentenced to death by hanging. A few days after the trial, Joanna Lacey was reprieved. The other 5 were taken to a site of execution at the north of the town, where they were duly hanged.
For many, the reason why the alleged witches of 1584 and 1645 were recorded as being buried in the churchyard has been a mystery. Tradition states that these condemned as criminals, including witches, would normally be buried in unconsecrated ground, in isolated places or at crossroads, where the spirit would be lost and confused and not be able to return and cause mischief.
In fact, Christian tradition records the north side of the church was not consecrated and was known as the Devil's Side. Burial there was restricted to sinners such as felons and those who committed suicide.
The statement included the unbaptized, excommunicated, strangers and vagabonds, including executed criminals and those accused of witchcraft. This was often referred to as burial without the sanctuary, or to lie out of the sanctuary.
Another old saying is that the devil walks in dark places, originally a reference to the shadowy areas of a churchyard, especially the north side of a church.
Now the east is God's side, where his throne is set. The west, man's side, the Galilee of the Gentiles. The south, the side of the spirits made just, and angels, where the sun shines in its strength. The north, the devil's side, where Satan and his legion lurk to catch the unwary.
In fact, some churches still have a devil's door in the north wall, which is open to baptisms and communions to let the devil out.
And finally, if you find yourself visiting Great Yarmouth Minster, why not take the time to run circle around the minsters 3 times whilst shouting, "Bloody Queen Mary!" You may see the face of Mary Tudor appearing through a window above one of the doors. You have to love these weird local legends.
You do indeed. And there we go. 5 really interesting stories of one location.
Mm.
And, well, when you say there's something for everybody, which seems a weird thing to say, but it covers a multitude of things.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing really missing from that is some kind of cryptid monster and a UFO. Then you get the lot, wouldn't you?
Well,
yeah, but maybe I can find those stories as well.
there's a few of those.
There certainly is.
Great Yarmouth, I'm sure there's bound to be.
Bound to be, guaranteed. But the final story, the one that we said with the witches buried in the church, is really quite sad because, as most people know, these people accused of witchcraft were just normal people.
Yeah.
You know.
If they looked slightly differently or lived on their own or anything, a mole on their nose, it could be anything.
Yep.
Helping villagers with various problems,
Yep.
herbs, potions, whatever. They were a witch.
Just taken aside and thought, I mean, it was just, I mean, there was one of them, I think, looking at the story of Elizabeth Bradwell, I think it was, which is one I might cover on our Substack. She lived on the beach and she was just like a lonely old lady and she fell foul of another person who then put her up and said, oh, she's a witch. And that's all it took.
Awful.
I mean, during that Civil War period, I mean, civil wars are never good, but people don't understand just the state the country was in. And it was really bad, which is why Hopkins took full advantage of it.
Horrible man.
You know, he operated in between, and people were quite happy to sort of say, "Oh, you know, Mrs. Smith down the road, she's a witch." You know, and it's incredible.
It's horrific.
Yeah, absolutely incredible.
Or if a woman upset another woman, they would just accuse her of being a witch, and that would be it.
And that was it. It was enough. Tittle-tattle, and they were gone. Hopkins and Stern would turn up and run through the series of horrendous tortures that they did to try and get confessions. And like we said, he really does need a complete podcast just to him to tell his story because it is really a very sinister story.
I don't think he deserves a podcast.
Don't you?
No, I do not.
Okay.
He's a bad man.
That's what I know. Quite interesting.
Yeah, but he's still a bad man.
Oh, he's a very bad man. Yeah. And all for profit. Because apparently he was paid £20 per witch.
Wow,
which in those days
a lot of
was a
money,
shitload of money,
No wonder he found so many then.
Yeah, exactly.
Crikey.
Yeah. They were saying something like, I can't remember the exact dates, but they said between certain dates, 400 witches were executed, and he accounted for 300 of them.
I wonder where he passed away, Matthew Hopkins.
I do believe it's down, was it Missley, I think?
I don't know.
Because there were sort of rumours about whether or not he was actually put on trial and hanged himself. He certainly wasn't very old. I mean, he fell out of favour. His methods were so awful that his reign of terror stopped in 1647. He fell out of favour because of the horrible things that he'd done. Apparently, I think he died of bronchitis or tuberculosis or something like that. But the rumours abound that actually he was put on trial. They said that he was a witch himself. And they put him on trial and hanged him, very interesting. So there you go, Great Yarmouth Minster.
Yes, that's
a place to go visit.
Indeed, it's interesting.
It is actually it's a really nice minster. Sadly, I have to say, after it was bombed in the war, all the personality was knocked out of it. It's really quite a nice, light and airy church, but there's nothing old in it at all.
I haven't been there for many years.
Yeah, it's a nice place. But it's interesting to walk around the cemetery itself and to look across because there's a part of the old town wall running behind it. Because there's one thing about Yarmouth that people don't realise is it's got a very intact medieval wall.
Oh yeah,
it's really quite sad because
there's lots of history.
It's fascinating, but it's
But then you go back even further. There's lots of Roman artefacts around there as well.
There's Borough Castle.
Huge amount of Roman remains.
Caister as well.
Yeah.
Massive. Two massive forts that were covering what was a big estuary at the time because Yarmouth wasn't there.
That's it.
It's a completely fascinating place. So don't think of it as a place to go paddling and, like we said, wear a kiss me quick hat and get a stick of rock. There is history there. There is an awful lot more to it. So
there is.
And there's a lot more tales to tell about Yarmouth. And in fact, we'll probably revisit it at some stage as well and tell some of the other stories.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's it for this episode.
It's time for us to go.
It is indeed. So it's a good night from me.
And it's a good night from me. And thank you for supporting us.
We'll see you again very soon.
Take care.
Bye.